Alright, so we've got a Delfield evaporator coil here, and the complaint is that they're temping high on the drawers. It was temping fine when I got here this morning. I opened it up just to be safe. I noticed that the drawers were all busted. I'll show you guys that when I put them back together. But again, just looking at the big picture, I've got this thing open. I'm going to do a leak check on the coil, and I pick up leaks all inside here. What's interesting is that from the roof, we're not showing a leak. I pumped down the receiver, the liquid level's where it's supposed to be, but I'm picking it up down here. So, big picture diagnosis, we found a leak. But here's a major issue. This is my TXV sensing bulb. TXV sensing bulb is loose. See, Delfield had a trend for a while where they were just using foil tape to hold their sensing bulbs on. And I thought we fixed them all, but apparently we missed one of them. That'll cause erratic temperature controller operation because it'll cause the TXV to flood, especially once that insulation gets saturated with water like it is too. So we're going to go ahead and restrap that sensing bulb. We're going to condemn this coil, but we're going to at least get it operational. All the fan motors are working. This thing's all dirty inside too, so I pulled all the cages out and cleaned it out for them. That was all inside the box. But looking at the big picture, you know, don't just stop at a broken drawer. Got to evaluate everything. This benefits me and the customer, so. We came up with this solution because we were constantly losing the mechanical temperature controllers due to water damage. So we had a custom stainless steel cover made. It's not really secured on there right, I'm going to fix that, but custom stainless steel cover to keep them from getting wet. So we throw those on every temp control now. Solves us a bunch of warranty issues. So this is the sensing bulb. Once I cut the insulation off with a razor blade, you see it was just foam tape. They used to have like a little metal strap in here that rusts out. This is like what's left of it. And you used to like, you know, just kind of spring clamp around the sensing bulb. But then they would just use this metal tape. They've since stopped that, but this has been a major problem since they started doing that, where they were just constantly having temperature controller issues. And if you weren't cautious about it, you would change your temp control and not pay attention to the loose sensing bulb, and then the new one would do the same thing. So if you think about it, if that sensing bulb is loose and or the insulation is saturated and it's sensing moisture, it's going to sense warmer than usual, and it's going to have a tendency to flood that evaporator. And it's going to cause problems with the temp control, because that temp control is a coil sensing temperature controller. So when the coil gets cold or warm, it's going to change the way the temperature controller turns on and off. So it just affects everything. So coil sensing controls are great because they're self-defrosting, but they also have their flaws, and this is one of them. They're very susceptible to system problems. So where if you had an air temperature or air sensing control in this box, you might not be so susceptible to a TXV issue, but you know, you would eventually have performance issues. But you know, I prefer putting the factory coil sensing ones back in though, because I just like the way that they work. And these coils, you know, the way that they're designed with the fins per inch being so close, they will have massive freeze up issues if you don't put the coil sensing one back in. So the next time you look at a box that has a air sensing temperature controller from the factory, you'll notice that the fins per inch is usually a little bit wider, so it has less tendencies to freeze up. So that's another thing to pay attention to. So we're going to get this guy strapped on. Alright, so that's much better. Nice and strapped. I'll put a piece of insulation on there, but you don't got to go too crazy on these little coils. The insulation's not a huge deal on the sensing bulbs, because a lot of times if you try to insulate this too much, it'll end up blocking off the airflow. So we're just going to put just enough to keep the bulb sensing the line, but we don't need to worry about insulating everything. It'll be fine. And then also you want to pay attention, see how I made sure the bulb is not on a joint or anything. You want it to be on a flat surface. So put a little piece of insulation on there. I'll re-secure this cover, and then we'll get everything put back together. So it's not perfect, but that's about all you need to do. You just really need to insulate the bulb. Like I said, it's not, you know, there's not enough room in these things to insulate all the way to the coil or anything. So that's all we need for now. Okay, so at this point we're back together. Everything's running. Very important to make sure you get these coils put back together right. There's actually little slots right here that the coil has to slide into. Same thing on the back. And then there's slots that the drain pan hooks into too. So everything should be nice and tight. When you pull on the drain pan, it shouldn't flex in the back or anything. So got to make sure you get these things back together right. But we're back together now, so I'm gonna put everything back together and test the temps. So all of these rollers are flattened out. The welds are all busted. These things are coming out. And then I'll show you the drawers too. The drawers are trashed. But yeah, every one of these is just hammered. These little things are supposed to roll and they just, like the Flintstones wheels. And those ones are busted. Well, these things, they sell a whole assembly that comes with the drawer cage, the drawer box, and the drawer face. So here's how Delfield classifies these. This entire thing is a drawer cage. These are the drawer tracks. There's a drawer face, and then there's a drawer box. And you see how the box, the welds are busted. So it's just all together. They sell an assembly that replaces, it goes in everything. It's like $10 million, but when it gets this bad, this is what you got to do. So this one, they're going to have to put 2 new drawer assemblies and then a whole new evaporator coil too. So it's going to be some big bucks. They might even consider replacing this whole unit, but that's their decision to make. So put back together, you can see that they've done some repair on this. The drawer handle's busted. They've like siliconed it together, done all kinds of work. The bolts are just hanging out. That wasn't me. But altogether, these things are just trashed, but they should be temping now. All right, so this was a service call on a set of Delfield drawers that were not working properly, okay? What I found when I arrived was that the drawers were not shutting properly. The inside of the box was really dirty, and I went ahead and cleaned out the inside of the box for the customer because I had to take the drawer assemblies out to get in there, and it was just easy for me to get it done. Unfortunately, the design of this box makes it really difficult for the customer to properly clean the inside because of the way that the drawer assemblies and everything are mounted inside there. So, found that all the drawer assemblies are broken. The tracks, the wheels are Flintstoned out, so they're all square. The welds are busted on the drawer boxes. The drawer faces are coming off. So we knew that we needed to replace drawer assemblies on those. Also found a refrigerant leak on the evaporator coil. And found that the TXV's sensing bulb was loose, which was causing the temperature controller to shut off prematurely, essentially, okay? When in actuality, the temperature controller was doing its job, but the TXV was not feeding correctly because the sensing bulb was loose. The evaporator coil was getting too cold, and the temperature controller was shutting the solenoid valve off before the air temperature inside the box got to where it was supposed to be, okay? So this is one of the flaws of a coil sensing temperature controller, okay, is that they're a little bit harder to diagnose. One may walk up to that box and say, ooh, this thing has a bad temp control because the box temp wasn't getting to where it was supposed to be and it was shutting off, but that wasn't the problem, okay? Looking at the big picture, we investigated and we found, oh, it was actually a loose sensing bulb that was causing the control to shut off too early. So once I got the coil dialed in, obviously we found that the drawers were all messed up. I went ahead and put the box back together. It was temping where it was supposed to be. I went ahead and talked to the facilities department of this particular restaurant and just gave them a big picture diagnosis. I said, look, I can replace these drawers, the whole box's assemblies. I can replace this evaporator coil that has a refrigerant leak. The repair quote was in excess of $7,000. And they were going to approve it. They were all for it. But I just told them, I said, look, guys, I really think it's time to step back, evaluate this equipment, and consider replacing it. Explained to them my methods and reasons behind that, and the customer actually decided to go ahead and replace the equipment. Now, I'm not getting a sale on this, okay? This is what happens when you deal with national restaurant chains, okay? They buy their own equipment. They buy it direct from the manufacturer, and then they're going to have a construction company come in, cut out the concrete curbs. They're going to put in self-contained equipment on casters now, okay? They're going to cut the refrigeration rack out of this remote or this equipment, okay? So I'm not making a penny today, but what I'm doing is I'm building the relationship with my customer.
I'm building trust with the customer because they look at it and go, look, this guy's telling me to replace this equipment and he's not going to make a penny from it. Okay. But what it'll do is it's going to help me in the future because of that relationship, that trust that I have. They're going to consider or continue to use me as a contractor. Okay. So I'm still going to get repairs. Occasionally I get an air conditioner replacement or an ice machine replacement. But when it comes to the refrigeration units, they just buy them direct. Okay. So this is one of those things you got to kind of evaluate everything and look at the big picture and look at the end game. Okay. My end game is to continue to work with this customer for years and years and years to come. So I'd rather not make a quick buck. I'd rather make a couple pennies later on down the line, okay? So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. Leave me some feedback down in the comments. And also consider checking out these other channels that are popping up around me right now, okay? They make some great content too. Other than that, I will see you guys on the next one, okay?